Just ahead on CTV News tonight, police are investigating a fatal hit and run. Plus, it was a scary scene on the Bay Bridge this weekend. And today marks the beginning of tax season. Those stories and more next.
Good evening. This is CTV News for Monday, January 29th. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Byron Scott. A pedestrian is struck and killed in a hit and run in Capitol Heights early this morning. Police were called to the area of Central Avenue at the Beltway just before 3:30 for the report of a crash. That's where they found 27-year-old Ayanna Myrick of Upper Marlboro in the roadway. Myrick died on the scene. Investigators say the driver of the striking vehicle was traveling westbound on Central Avenue when they hit Myrick. The crash caused a major road closure during the morning commute. Anyone with information is asked to call 301-731-4422. And the mother of the Baltimore woman that went on a random rampage across Prince George's County last week says her daughter had been seeking medical attention for mental illness for weeks. Tanae Stallings Brown was charged in connection with 2 stabbings and 3 hit and runs, and her mother says Stallings Brown has struggled with schizophrenia and ADHD since childhood. She says her daughter complained of hearing voices and was turned away when she sought help recently from Kaiser Permanente and the University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore. The suspect's mother expressed apologies for her daughter's crimes and told the Washington Post she hoped the daughter would now get the help she's seeking. Stallings Brown is being held without bond. We reached out to UMD Medical Center and Kaiser Permanente and are waiting for a response.
Americans nationwide can begin filing their taxes today. The Internal Revenue Service anticipates more than 146 million individual 2023 tax returns will be submitted. Remember, the last day to file your taxes or to request an extension is April 15th. To help filers, the IRS has extended hours of its more than 200 taxpayer assistance centers. The agency says the expanded hours were made possible by funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. For more tax help, you can visit the website on your screen. Meantime, a new national poll from AP and the University of Chicago says most Americans feel they pay too much in taxes. 2/3 say they spend too much on federal income taxes. About 7 in 10 say the same about local property taxes, while 6 in 10 feel that way about state sales tax. The poll shows Americans are more likely to trust local governing bodies than the federal government. Meantime, adults over 60 are more likely than younger Americans to perceive taxes as fair.
And the Prince George's Fire Department was dispatched to the 11,700 block of South Laurel Drive in Laurel for a second time in the week. It happened at around 8 o'clock this morning in a 3-story apartment building. No one was injured, but officials say a dog was found deceased. Residents of the building told CTV News that no one was home in the unit where the fire began. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
A change to the way the Maryland state legislature fills vacancies could put the choice in voters' hands. State Senator Cheryl Kagan is sponsoring a bill that would require special elections by mail to fill vacant seats outside of gubernatorial election years. The current process has locally elected party central committees recommending replacements for vacant seats, which the governor then has to approve. If lawmakers agree to adopt a change in the process, it will go to voters as a constitutional amendment.
Montgomery's Council President Andrew Friedson is calling on the school board and the school district to resolve its ongoing dispute. At a press conference today, Friedson wouldn't say whether school superintendent Dr. Monifa McKnight should resign. This comes after news that the school board wants her gone. Friedson called McKnight's position as the superintendent as, quote, a personnel matter between the school board and herself. He went on to say that the council does not have the authority to remove McKnight from her job.
Working very hard to ensure that the public and we have confidence in the school leadership, including the Board of Education and the superintendent and the MCPS leadership. The superintendent is still having meetings and is in contact with council members. She's still serving as the superintendent. But it's not lost on us that there is a dispute between the Board of Education and the superintendent. And as I noted earlier, we'd like to see that resolved as quickly as possible because we need to move forward and we need to understand exactly how we're moving forward. And we'll continue to push. I'll continue to push for a resolution to be made as quickly as possible.
The council is holding an oversight meeting to discuss the findings of the Office of the Inspector General's report on February 8th. Friedson says he wants the school board and MCPS leadership to be at that meeting. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Patricia Vallone. Coming up, what should you know if someone comes knocking on your door?
Stay tuned. Back in a moment.
I have always been very independent. I never depended on anybody, and that's the way we were brought up. I was able to provide for my family. You know, that was never a problem. But when I got COVID, it affected me physically and mentally. I was a nurse, and because of COVID, it's hard for me to go back because of the dizzy spells and my heart problems that I do have. I had to start all over from somewhere. So I've opened up a little boutique. It's called Starstruck Boutique. But, you know, I've always been making good money, and now I'm not. It's so hard to ask for help. The food pantry, they're an amazing organization here in Corpus Christi. They have this program for kids. It's called Kids Culinary, and it provides information and also cooking kits. My son Junior is a very picky eater. He never tried anything new. So by these kits that came in, he was able to read about the different kinds of foods, and he was excited about that. Junior looked forward every week to see what was coming in Friday. It was like a present every week. It provides me time to share with my son, to bond, you know, how to cook, you know, get in the kitchen and actually cook and prepare a meal or a recipe. And he's always like, Mom, let me make you something to eat now. So I'm like, okay, he's gonna do really good when he gets older. He's gonna like to cook and stuff like that. All I could do is give him the tools and educate him, and it's up to him to build a better and healthy life for himself and his family. That's the best thing that I could do.
Welcome back. Traffic on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is back to normal following a series of crashes that jammed traffic for 6 hours over the weekend. Investigators say 43 vehicles in all were involved in chain reaction crashes on the westbound span just before 7 o'clock Saturday. Witnesses described hearing the sounds of cars colliding through the thick fog. 13 people were taken to area hospitals, including 2 to shock trauma in Baltimore. The investigation, police say, is ongoing.
Maryland's Attorney General wants to warn residents about a popular type of sales scam. Door-to-door sales scams are the most recent consumer alert issued by that office. Thieves will often pose as legitimate salespeople in order to get you to buy something or to get your personal information. Officials recommend to always research a business before hiring it and to never pay in cash. Remember, if the deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
A Laurel man is arrested after barricading himself in his home early yesterday morning. Investigators say 40-year-old Jason Mark stole a vehicle last night. Police discovered the suspect getting out of the stolen car on the 14,600 block of Phillip Court just before 1 o'clock this morning. They say Marks got out of his car, ran into his home, and barricaded himself. It took several hours, but investigators, negotiators, I should say, were able to talk him out, where he surrendered peacefully. Marks had 4 warrants out for his arrest.
A huge package of cybersecurity legislation, which required state agencies and local governments to meet minimum standards, passed the Maryland General Assembly back in 2022. A fund was set up out of the state's Department of Emergency Management to help governments and school systems prevent these attacks by remediating vulnerabilities. But one state lawmaker says those funds are now in danger of getting cut.
There was $150 million, which we had set aside in the last budget to support these efforts, and that was completely obliterated in the last round of in this budget. And so I'm going to fight really hard to get some of that money back. I don't know if we can. I mean, times are tough. Everybody's got to give a little, but $150 million is way too much to just evaporate when we need to protect our kids and the data of the citizens of the state of Maryland.
It cost more than $50 million to fix the 2022 ransomware attack on the Maryland Department of Health. In August last year, more than 4,500 user accounts were accessed and compromised after a ransomware attack on the Prince George's school system. The ransom group, Reseda, claimed responsibility for that attack and released the stolen information during a dark web auction.
The amount of money consumers pay in overdraft fees could be cut as the Biden administration continues its crackdown on so-called junk fees. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, some 23 million households incur overdraft fees, some as high as $33. Regulators have proposed an option that could set fees at between $3 to $14. In addition to high overdraft fees, the administration is targeting credit card late fees, as well as some fees tacked onto ticket prices and hotel bills.
Housing affordability is worse than ever. That's one of the findings of a report issued by the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University. The report indicates that rental markets across the country are cooling, yet rents remain high. Home sales and construction levels are declining, and home prices remain elevated from pre-pandemic levels. The report also says millions of households are priced out of home ownership. To address these concerns in Maryland, Governor Moore has proposed in his FY25 budget $115 million for housing and community development investments.
The Maryland House of Delegates introduced a joint resolution calling for a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. Democrat Gabriel Acevedo introduced the bill on Friday in support of a long-term ceasefire, and the resolution, which aims to protect civilian lives and increase the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. The war between Israel and Hamas has led to at least 30,000 Palestinian deaths and the displacement of almost 2 million people from their homes in Gaza. The Maryland Council on American Islamic Relations supports the legislation.
We have hundreds of Palestinian community members here in Maryland who have loved ones who've been killed in this violence, and their humanity deserves to be acknowledged. Their loss deserves to be centered. This is something that all people of conscience should be supporting. It should never be controversial to call for an end to the targeting of innocent lives. And the fact that right now there is so much controversy around calling for a ceasefire is something that should give every person of conscience pause. And we're calling on our lawmakers to support this resolution and stand on the right side of history.
And CARE encourages Marylanders to contact the legislators and urge them to support that measure. Well, after serving 11 terms in Congress, Maryland Representative Dutch Ruppersberger says he will not seek re-election. Ruppersberger has represented Maryland's 2nd Congressional District since 2002, covering Carroll and Baltimore counties. His retirement caps a nearly 4-decade run in state politics that began with his election to the Baltimore County Council in 1986.
The decision was really my family. I have 5 grandchildren. The oldest is 16. The youngest is 3 years old. And 3 of them live in Harrisburg, Virginia. I'm sad. There's no question when you've done something for such a long time. But I'm living with it, and everybody tells me that when you're out, you're a lot happier. So we'll see.
Ruppersberger's announcement follows that of fellow Maryland Congressman John Sarbanes, who announced in October that he would not seek re-election.
Prince George's County Executive Angela Brooks will host a virtual listening session for residents to learn about plans for the proposed 2025 budget. Residents will also be able to provide input by testifying virtually or submitting written comments. Now, the event takes place from 6 to 8 tonight and will be streaming on the county government's YouTube channel. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Byron Scott. This month is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we're talking to a member of the Prince George's County Human Traffic Task Force to learn more about what the county is doing to stop trafficking. Stay tuned.
I received my master's and I started counseling in Deer Park, Pasadena, Texas, and was out playing basketball and had a real bad back injury. The physician gave me some painkillers and they worked beautifully. I mean, I was using those pills frequently. And at the same time, thinking that I was quote unquote functional, my wife starts saying to me, look, Robert, the pills are destroying our family. Can I stop real quick? Right? At that point, my wife decided that she needed to get away because the kids were growing up seeing an addicted father. I cried out and asked God to somehow deliver me from the substance abuse. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. I ended up living on the street in an abandoned warehouse for 12 years. There happened to be a hole that had somehow been cut out. I would lay on that nasty mattress and I would look through that hole and I would ask, God, is this it? Where are you? Where are you? The ARC had saved my life. What the work therapy gave was structure. I felt like I was a part of something again. And now today, I am the intake coordinator where I have that opportunity to give back to others what the ARC gave so freely to me. Nothing is more powerful than that. So I've been clean now for about 10 years. The kids are back. The wife, we're the best friends now. The ARC helped restore everything that I thought I had lost forever.
Police are investigating the robbery of an Exxon gas station yesterday morning. It happened just after 1:30 on the 7500 block of Landover Road in Landover. Investigators say 2 individuals stole merchandise and/or cash, police say, before fleeing the scene. No one was injured during the robbery. Anyone with information on the case has to call 1-866-411-TIPS.
Maryland's offshore wind energy industry is suffering a major setback. One of 2 companies planning to install wind turbines off the eastern shore says it is repositioning its plans, pulling out of its agreement with the state. According to Maryland Matters, Ørsted says it will seek alternative financial arrangements to fund the project. The Danish company says it still has state approval for 2 leases to provide wind energy later this decade, but that it needs to find a better way to finance and save the project. Well, human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit.
Men, women, and children of all ages and from all backgrounds can become victims of this crime, which occurs in every region of the world.
And joining us now to talk about the issue and what the county is doing to combat it is Robert Winley from the Prince George's Human Trafficking Task Force. So first off, why don't you explain to us a little bit about what the task force does?
The task force is a group of citizens, nonprofits, law enforcement, county employees that get together to have events and really bring awareness to the county of what human trafficking is. It's really just coming to light. There's so much information, and we're just doing a lot of work to get that awareness.
What are some of the misconceptions regarding human trafficking?
Well, first of all, it's not really as Hollywood says it is. It's not really a white van coming up and taking somebody. A trafficker could be a family member. It could be a friend. And so there is a lot of misconceptions. One of the other ones is that a victim may not understand they are a victim. There's a lot of coercion with human trafficking. So a victim may not understand that they're being compelled to do something, and that's another misconception.
When you talk about that, you're talking about perhaps they might think it's a friend, somebody who they care about, perhaps a partner of sorts.
Absolutely. The traffickers will often try to gain the confidence of the victim, promise them something that they never really get. And so the victim has that confidence and loyalty to the trafficker, and so that's one reason why we don't have a lot of statistics about human trafficking, because many victims don't recognize themselves as victims.
It sounds like it's also very difficult to identify someone as a victim.
It is. And no age group is free from this. It affects men, women, children. And it really, there is no community free from that.
Is there anything in particular you can do to spot a victim?
There are a number of signs for victims of human trafficking. There's labor trafficking and there's sex trafficking. Both, there's signs for that. And the signs are not exclusive to human trafficking. For example, if someone is unsure of their address or where they're from, if someone has signs of physical or sexual abuse, if someone doesn't do a lot of work, but all of a sudden they have a lot of money. Things like that. It may not be directly connected to human trafficking, but they are signs of human trafficking.
If one suspects that's going on, should they intervene?
They can definitely talk to the person. They should be there as a friend, as a voice. If someone suspects human trafficking, they could always call 311 if they want to give a tip or they suspect human trafficking. I always feel that it's better safe than sorry. If you feel that there is human trafficking, contact someone or just be a voice for someone to help them get out of that situation.
Which kind of leads into my next question. What can the community as a whole do to help?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do as a task force is to bring awareness. You don't have to be an expert on it. You could also just be a voice. We're working with young people to try to help their friends. And so at school, be that friend as a parent. That's why I got into this. I have 3 school-aged children. And as a parent, maybe sit down with your children, talk to them about what human trafficking is, talk to them about the electronics they use, how much time they're spending on social media, talk to them about maybe not forming relationships with strangers on social media.
How prevalent is this in Maryland?
It's very prevalent. In fact, Prince George's County is a hot spot for human trafficking because of the truck stops, the bus stops, the rest stops, BWI Airport, and the access that we have to all of these East Coast cities. Our county is a major hot spot for particularly sex trafficking.
Okay, Dr. Windley, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for more information, call the Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888, or you can call locally 301-883-6170, or just call 311. And up next, CTV News, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson and head coach John Harbaugh have a lot to say about yesterday's big game.
That's right, and Simon Buggs has a recap of the AFC Championship. We'll be back in just a moment.
What's up, sports fans? And coming up in a bit, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson as well as head coach John Harbaugh reflect on the team's AFC Championship game matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. That story and more coming up soon. Don't go anywhere.
I've traveled all over the world and people thought this guy is nuts, but I'm not. Just being able to get up in the morning or go to bed at night is a challenge for me. I was 16 going on 17 when I broke my neck playing football. I'm Harvey, and I'm the executive director of the Southern Coast Center for Independent Living. I assist people with disabilities becoming as independent as they possibly can be. When we had the opportunity to deliver and donate food to our consumers, we formed a really great partnership with the All Faith Food Bank. I saw the need, how much food people needed, especially the people in the disability community. So we have produce, we have meats, we have non-perishables. A lot of people with disabilities can't get out to get food. And that's where we come into play. We have the means to take food to people who don't have it or can't get to the market because they don't have the transportation. And also because of the cost of food, a lot of people with disabilities only make so much money. And so the food helps, it goes a long way. Initially, when I got hurt, I couldn't move anything. It was a very scary time in my life. But because of the family support that I had, I was able to overcome it. I hope that my son would have the same passion or compassion for people that I have for individuals with disabilities. I think that he's on the right path. It all comes back to becoming independent, but everybody needs a little help sometimes. And that's what we try to do.
Hey everyone, it's time for your Monday Sports Page. Beginning with the NFL, there was some playoff action over the weekend as the Baltimore Ravens faced off against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But Baltimore had a hard time putting points on the board in the matchup and wound up losing to the Chiefs 17-10. And quarterback Lamar Jackson spoke after the game on the team's offensive struggles.
I mean, we had some opportunities out there. Just got to take advantage of them. Can't turn the ball over. Fumble, interception, stuff like that. They gave them the opportunity to, put points on the board and win the game. We get in that red zone. It's been our touchdown all season. We just got to finish, and we didn't do a good job on finishing. Defense did a wonderful job, but held a great offense at 17 points. We got to execute. We scored 1 touchdown, and that's not like us. That was early on in the year. No excuses, though. We got to take advantage.
Head coach John Harbaugh also spoke and revealed what his message was to the team following the loss.
I was proud of them. I'm proud of the season that they had. I feel like it was a team that had a lot of challenges. I don't think it was a team that was too highly touted coming into the season by the pundits and the prognosticators and all that. And I think they proved a lot of people wrong all year.
And with the San Francisco 49ers victory over the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game, that makes this year's Super Bowl matchup the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Niners. The two teams will take the field on February 11th. Now to the world of high school football as I continue my conversation with former Wise coach DeLon Parrish. The Howard County native had a ton of success with the Pumas, winning 6 state titles over a 18-year span. But when Parrish got into coaching, his main goal wasn't to win championships, it was to push his players to be the best person they can be.
When I first decided I wanted to be a football coach or even play, I didn't think about it from a standpoint that we was going to win championships. In my mindset, hey, if we go 6-4, 7-3, and 5 or 6 of them go to school and play football, I did a pretty good job. If they become better people, right, the life lessons, like my friends I played with, some of them didn't go to college, but they're business owners, right? They're hard workers in the community. They have families. If I could help somebody do that or give them a voice that they didn't have, give them the confidence that maybe somebody didn't have in their life to push them, then I would be successful in that regard.
And wrapping up sports, the UMD men's basketball team came out on top versus Nebraska over the weekend, 73-51. Their next opponent will be Michigan State on Saturday. Meanwhile, the Terps women's basketball team was also in action this weekend, but got routed by Penn State 112-76. The Lady Terps will try and bounce back versus Indiana on Wednesday. And that is your Monday Sports Page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
Thanks, Simon. Well, the weather this week isn't quite as warm as what we were spoiled with last week, but now let's get a quick check on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, mostly cloudy and 29. More clouds tomorrow, but it'll warm up to a warm 45 degrees.
And 45 with a slight chance of snow tomorrow night. A little warmer on Wednesday with a high of 47 and a 30% chance of rain. 52 and sunny on Thursday.
And that wraps up our CTV News Update. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Byron Scott. Join us tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Good night.
Having low income can mean making tough choices. Choosing between paying for food or medication or a place to live is a reality for many people. Do you know someone who could use some extra help? Find out about the Supplemental Security Income Program, SSI. You could receive monthly SSI payments if your income and financial resources are low and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. SSI is money you can use to help pay for basic needs, like putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, paying the rent. It can mean new shoes for growing feet or help with medical needs. Call 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI to schedule an appointment or start to apply today. That's ssa.gov/SSI. Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.